In 1924, a 24-year-old woman named Mollie Maggia had her entire jaw removed by a doctor. What he found inside stopped him cold. The bone had turned to powder. By the time the full story broke open, 5 young women were dead, dozens more were dying, and the company responsible had spent years telling them the paint was harmless. Those women fought back. They changed American labor law forever. That is where this story ends. Now let's go back to where it began. It started in a factory in Orange, New Jersey. The year was 1917. America had just entered the First World War, and military watches were in desperate demand. Soldiers needed to read their dials in the dark. That required luminous paint, and the only paint that glowed bright enough was radium. The United States Radium Corporation hired hundreds of young women to paint those dials. Most were teenagers. Some were as young as 14. The pay was excellent, far above a factory wage, up to $23 a week. For a working-class girl in New Jersey in 1917, that was real money. The work seemed almost glamorous. The women painted tiny watch faces with tiny brushes. Radium made the paint glow green. It was beautiful, honestly. Some girls daubed it on their teeth and fingernails to glow at dances. The supervisors encouraged them. Management told them the paint was safe. One supervisor called it a tonic. There was a technique every new girl was taught on her first day: lip dip paint. You wet the brush with your lips, you dipped it in the radium paint, you painted the dial, then you did it again, hundreds of times a day, 5 days a week. The women ingested radium constantly. The company knew this. But here is where it gets darker. The scientists handling radium in the same building wore lead aprons. They used tongs. They stood behind shields. The dial painters got nothing. Not a warning, not a shield, not even a question. By 1920, the women were getting sick. It started subtly: toothaches that wouldn't quit, gums that bled without stopping, then teeth began falling out, then jawbones began to crack. Doctors had never seen anything like it. They called it phossy jaw, a condition usually linked to phosphorus in match factories. But this was different. This was worse. Radium, once inside the body, behaves like calcium. The bones absorb it, and radium does not stop. It emits radiation for over 1,600 years. It was destroying these women from the inside out, slowly, with no exit. Grace Fryer was one of the first to suspect the truth. She had worked at the Orange plant since 1917. By 1922, her teeth were gone. Her spine was collapsing. She went looking for a lawyer. No one would take the case, not for 2 years. The company was too powerful, the science was too new, and the statute of limitations was closing fast. The United States Radium Corporation was not sitting still. They hired their own doctors to examine the sick women. Those doctors reported back. The women were fine, or they were syphilitic, or they were hysterical. Every diagnosis pointed away from radium, every time. One man knew the truth. Dr. Harrison Martland was the medical examiner for Essex County, New Jersey. In 1925, he tested the women. He held a Geiger counter to their bodies. The readings were extraordinary. These women were radioactive. They were emitting radiation from their bones, their breath, their hair. Martland published his findings. The company called him a fraud. And yet the hiring continued. Plants opened in Illinois. More young women were trained to lip dip paint. The Ottawa, Illinois factory alone employed hundreds. Management there told new workers the same thing the New Jersey girls had been told: safe, harmless, a tonic. By 1927, Grace Fryer had found her lawyer. His name was Raymond Berry. He filed suit. 5 women joined her. They became known as the Radium Girls. The press came, the public listened, and the company began to panic. The legal battle was brutal. The company filed delay after delay. They argued the women had waited too long. They argued the science was unsettled. They argued there was no proof. Meanwhile, the women were dying in courtrooms. Literally, 2 of the 5 could not lift their arms to take the oath. 1 arrived on a stretcher. The judge refused to grant further delays. For the first time, a corporation was being forced to face workers it had poisoned in open court. That had almost never happened in American history. The company settled in 1928. Each woman received $10,000, a modest annual pension, and all medical costs for life. It was not justice exactly, but it was a beginning. The settlement was front-page news across America. But in this matters, the Illinois women were still fighting. They had not been included. Their cases dragged on through the 1930s. One woman there, Catherine Wolfe Donahue, filed suit from her deathbed in 1938. She weighed 70 pounds. She won. She died 5 months later. She was 34 years old. What the Radium Girls built, through their suffering, through their legal battles, was something entirely new. The right of workers to sue employers for damages caused by workplace conditions. That principle barely existed before 1928. It is the foundation of occupational safety law in the United States today. Every American worker who has ever filed a workplace injury claim owes something to these women. The cases also changed how American courts treated the statute of limitations in occupational disease. Before these trials, the clock started ticking the moment you were exposed, even if you didn't know you were sick, even if the company actively hid the cause. The Radium Girls cases helped establish that the clock should start when you discover the harm. That is now standard law. They also forced the first serious federal investigation into workplace radiation safety. That investigation laid the groundwork for what eventually became the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. It did not exist until 1971, but its roots run straight back to a watch factory in New Jersey in 1917. Mollie Maggia, the first woman whose name appeared in the medical record, was buried in Montclair, New Jersey. In 1927, her body was exhumed as evidence. The Geiger counter placed near her remains clicked steadily. Her bones were still radioactive. They still would have been radioactive in your lifetime. They may still be radioactive now. Some of the women who survived into the 1930s agreed to be studied by scientists. They submitted to endless tests. They gave their bodies to science even while their bodies were failing them. One of them, Mee Keen, outlived nearly everyone. She was still alive at 91. She had worked at the factory for only a few months before quitting. She said the paint tasted terrible and she refused to lip the brush after her first week. That refusal may have saved her life. The company changed its name several times. The United States Radium Corporation eventually became Safety Light Corporation. It operated in Pennsylvania until 1978. The site is now a Superfund cleanup location. The soil still tests positive for radium contamination. These women were not scientists. They were not activists. They were teenagers and young mothers who took a factory job because it paid well. They were lied to, poisoned, and then accused of being diseased when they sought help. They fought a corporation, the courts, and the medical establishment simultaneously, and they won. Their names deserve to be said: Grace Fryer, Edna Hussman, Catherine Schaub, Quinta MacDonald, Albina Laris. And Catherine Wolfe Donoghue, who won her case from a stretcher and did not live to see the summer. History moves through people like these, not the famous ones, not the powerful ones, the ones who had no choice but to keep going. Which raises a question worth sitting with. If these women had stayed silent, if not one of them had pushed back, how long would American industry have kept poisoning its workers without consequence? That story has a darker twin, and it involves a corporation that learned everything the radium industry learned and did it anyway. New Forgotten History lands on this channel every Tuesday and Saturday. If you don't want to miss the next one, subscribing is the only way to make sure it reaches you.